Archaeologist's log. Day 1. Journey to the city of Trinsic. The morning sun had risen over Britannia. I, Harold Wellington of the Archaeologists Guild, and my young crew, Jonas, Martha and Bartus, awoke early, hastily loading up our pack horses for the journey ahead. A crew of archaeologists will typically end up working together like a well-oiled clock, and we were no exception, especially after having already been on a dig together in the jungle for the previous 3 weeks. A dig, I should say, which we were pulled off of in the dead of night in order to investigate a strange pyramid that had been discovered in the swamp north of the city of Trinsic. At any rate, we were prepared to leave within our first hour on the clock, as planned. We set off into the Spirit Wood, continuing on our journey south. The mid-morning sky was luminous with a light purple tint in the clouds, with the light of the sun keeping us warm in the otherwise brisk weather. The forest was serene, its peacefulness highlighted by the curious back and forth chattering of a group of starlings which guided us into the thick. As we walked down the path, the trees grew taller and thicker, until eventually the sky became invisible. Brilliant rays of light were now pouring through holes in the canopy, quietly descending onto portions of the road ahead. My mind had been wandering, and I had fallen behind. Ahead, I watched as Bartis reached down and harvested a row of foxglove flowers. He lifted them above his head into one of the bright rays, and appeared to be carefully inspecting each pod for insects. He then turned to Martha, pinning it to one of her long, brown braids. She welled up at the gesture and accepted. Great, I remember thinking, workplace romance. I suppose it can't be avoided, but I'll still be holding the crew up to the highest standards of the guild, so hopefully it won't become a distraction. It wasn't long into our journey that we came across the path to the swamp that we would be taking the next day. Despite the rushed nature of this expedition, we were to continue traveling south to the city to retrieve new tools and supplies from people with knowledge of the terrain. The guild had sent word ahead of us to some members of an old guild chapter that had previously been located in the northern district of the city. We were on orders to have the entire crew travel together, otherwise I would have sent Jonas, a capable scout, to investigate the structure early while the rest of us continued past. Yet, as I had peered down the pathway into the swamp, something told me it would have been a bad idea, even if it had been allowed. I'd been pondering on something that a man had said the other night. Something about a mother needing to fight off some vines with a bardiche to save her child? Must be some pretty deadly vines. I hope we don't have too much trouble, as neither of the young men in the crew seem to have any apparent skill with a small blade, let alone a polium. With any luck we'll be able to find something sharp and heavy like that once we get to the city, but my concern right now is more for any volunteer laborers we encounter getting accidentally harmed by these three, as that wouldn't be good for the guild's reputation. At least sharper weapons would be better than the dull ones we've been using in the jungle. We finally made it to the city in the late afternoon, and indeed, a special welcoming party had been awaiting our arrival. There at the city gates were the supplies they had put together for us, which included food, clean bed rolls, and various heavy armaments. Bardiches, I thought as I looked in one of the long crates they had loaded onto a caravan for us, and saw that there was one for each of us. I reached inside and ran my finger along one of the blades. Razor sharp. That's when I knew we were definitely going to be walking into something unnatural.